session. Thereafter, it's going to be more a panel discussion between the panelists here, and we'll welcome questions and answers maybe simultaneously. We just want to make sure it's interactive, and we'd like to be happy to know that you're not sleeping in our sessions, please. So with that, I'm just going to give a very brief one or two liners here, although Shweta has already introduced topic. As far as we know, income tax and GST with respect to CSR has always been a gray area kind of a situation, very litigative in nature. Multiple types of judgments coming in and out at various points of time. Some clarity coming in 2014 with respect to certain allowable. Premise of CS, as we all know, was that the government intended that after you had the organizations eligible to do CSR or required to do CSR, after they had arrived at a profit, that means profit after tax. So after everything was available to the shareholder, out of that a small percentage was to be spent for the welfare of the society. So I think by the premise of that, we can take a direction that deductions of various types were not necessarily going to be allowed in this particular spend. However, intention and actual practicality of implementation turns out to be very different many times. When working on an implementation, are whether it formulates a donation or not. So multiple gray areas are coming out with these transactions, and neither the income tax nor GST has any absolutely settled law for the entire set of provisions. So with this starting point, I'm going to request Salimji to give his presentation, and then we'll set this forum rolling.
Thanks, ma'am. And at the outset, I would like to thank Deen Dayalji from this CSR Foundation for an opportunity on very important topic of CSR. And I will be, as ma'am has said, I will be just briefing you on the GST provisions regarding the corporate social responsibility. As ma'am said, there are several gray areas which need to be encountered and all. So as far as so let us start till the PPT goes on. There are two, if we all see about this. As we all know, GST is a tax on supply of goods or services or both. And that is the basic premise of GST. We all know. So if we go through this corporate social responsibility, where the impact is there, these are the relevant provisions. You must have already gone through them. The section 135 of the Companies Act. So these are the provisions of is GST applicable on CSR expenses? This is the moot question before us. So if we see, there can be number of CSR projects and all. And there are alternative means by which we can incur the CSR expenses. One of the means is that we donate to the PM Cares Fund. That is also one of the means. So whether in this particular mean any GST implication will be there or not, the question is whether any GST implication will be there in case I donate or I pay to the PM Cares Fund or Swachh Bharat Kosh. Any GST implication? कोई GST देना पड़ेगा? No GST is applicable because there is no supply. As I said, GST is a tax on supply of goods or services or both. And as there is no supply, in case of pure donations to the government trust or any other trust, there is no GST implication. The question of GST arises in the cases which are project based, basically, which are the project based work, some construction work, school building, toilet building and all that is there. Therein the contractor will charge the GST from you and you need to pay. And further, another important issue in regard to donation and gift, there is a small thin line. Suppose a company or an individual gives a donation to a charitable trust, charitable institution, and suppose his name is written by that trust or institution at the venue or at the place or at the building. So whether it will amount to supply or not. Because if you see the section 7.1a of the CST Act 2017, along with supply, there will be in the course or publicity. If I am getting something in return, that transaction tantamounts to supply, and thereon the GST will be applicable. So it is very important. It is very important whether I am getting something in return or not. There is a 2019 CBIC circular on this, that sometimes donors donate to temple and all, and their name is inscribed there and all. So there the CBIC has issued a circular. If it is purely for philanthropic purposes, if I am not getting something in return, then no GST will be applicable. So whether in case of donation or a gift to acts of the gift, then that itself lead it to elimination further. The documents should be done in such a manner that quid pro quo cannot be substantiated from those documents. So this is the basic premise. Then second question which arises in regard to, I will be keeping my presentation brief so that we can have the fire talk and all. We can conserve the time. So ITC, second question is input tax credit on CSR expenses. As we have just supposed, there are construction based services are there, building, toilet. The supplier has charged the GST from me. I have paid the GST. Whether I can avail the input tax credit or not in respect of CSR expenses. That is the second important issue. So it is also a very thoroughly debated topic, thoroughly litigated topic, and there are rulings, contradictory rulings from the advance rulings. Some of the rulings, set of rulings say nahi, input tax credit will be eligible, and some say it won't be eligible. Those who say it will be available, they say it is a statutory requirement. As per the Companies Act 2013, it has been provided you need to incur, and if you don't incur, you need to park it with the bank account even. So accordingly, if it is a statutory requirement, so it is my statutory duty to comply with it. So accordingly, how the ITC can be withdrawn or can be restricted by the department? That is the one school of thought. The other school of thought is no. They take the Companies Act, Tax Act. So similarly, the rulings which say that ITC is not eligible, they say as per the Companies Act, it is not the normal business activities, and accordingly, ITC, as it is not related to business, section 17(1)(2) states ki only for if any expense has been incurred for business purposes, then only the input tax credit thereon can be availed. So it is a in favor. There are two set of rulings are there. One is like SL Propac versus Commissioner of CGST. This is the one of the ruling which states no, CSR is not a charity, it is a business expenditure, and it is a statutory requirement. Accordingly, ITC will be available. Then similarly, Dwari case, Sugar Industries, UP Advanced Ruling Authority. And recently, the Telangana AIR in the Bombino pasta food industries, or in October last month itself, they have ruled that CSR expenses are business expenses, and accordingly, it is a statutory requirement. Accordingly, ITC will be available. So these are the set of rulings wherein it has been provided. But against also are there, like Gujarat AIR is there. They give reference to the rule. They give reference to the rule 4.1, rule 2D of the CSR rules, which states that activities undertaken in pursuance of normal course of business are not CSR activities as per the Companies Act requirement, which are in the normal course of business, that is not regarded as a CSR activity. तो कंपनी एक्ट ये बोलता है कि भाई जो नॉर्मल बिजनेस एक्टिविटी है वो सीएसआर नहीं है. इसका मतलब सीएसआर जो है दैट इज नॉट ए नॉर्मल बिजनेस एक्टिविटी. तो अकॉर्डिंगली उसको लेके ये गुजरात एआर ने अडामा इंडिया प्राइवेट लिमिटेड में ही हैज स्टेटेड दैट आईटीसी वुड नॉट बी एलिजिबल. फिर पॉलीकैब वायर्स भी है, इसमें भी जैसे वन सेक्शन 17(5)H इज आल्सो देयर. सेक्शन 17(5) इज रिगार्डेड टू द ब्लॉक क्रेडिट. तो ब्लॉक क्रेडिट में भी एक क्वेश्चन है, सपोज आई हैव डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट एनीथिंग, suppose I am manufacturer or something, some suppose disaster happens, I have distributed as a part of my CSR. तो उसमें क्या, whether my ITC will be reversed, because actually some product I have made, I have distributed free of cost, some raw material cost I have incurred, so on that I must have paid the GST. So input tax credit, whether that will be eligible or not, so this is another issue. So here also there are multiple rulings, one saying nani it will be available, and another one saying it won't be available. So there are, as GST, lot of gray areas are there. This is one of the gray area where is multiple rulings are there. तो अब इसमें क्या होगा, जब तक सुप्रीम कोर्ट में नहीं जाएगा या गवर्नमेंट क्लेरिफाई करे, इन सच ए सिचुएशन व्हाट हैपेंस, फाइनलिटी तब तक नहीं होगी जब तक सुप्रीम कोर्ट नहीं करता या गवर्नमेंट क्लेरिफाई नहीं करती. तो इसमें अब एक प्रैक्टिकल जो है कि एज ए कंपनी एनीवे हैज टू इंकर 2% ऑफ द expense as CSR expense. So one of the practical thing which has been taken, like I am in Power Finance Corporation and all, so it is a PSU and all. So anyway, a 2% has to be. Suppose anybody has incurred 100 rupees, 18 rupees GST has paid. So one is he book as 100 rupees as CSR and 18 rupees he take the input tax credit. Other thing is he don't avail the input tax credit, entire 118 goes to CSR expense. So anyway, he has to incur 2%. Even if he avails the ITC, that practically is not any saving for that company. Suppose a company has a budget of 200 crores. It has incurred 100 crores and 18% GST suppose he has paid. So he has incurred 118 crores. So if we don't take the ITC, so 118 crore is booked as expense. So accordingly, he need to incur 82 crore additional. However, if he avails the ITC, in that particular 18 rupees you have availed the ITC, तो CSR expense में फिर 100 rupees की booking रह जाएगी. तो anyway he has to then another incur additional 100 crores. So ultimately, if we see, the input tax credit practically is not any saving of the company, because anyway he has to incur the 2%. Anyway he has to incur the 2%. If he avails the ITC, so he will have to incur that additional amount, and further there will always be a chance of litigation and all. So practically ITC may not be availed, and accordingly then the final is the TDS on CSR expenses. TDS provisions are also there. This is particularly relevant to government bodies, government PSUs. It is not relevant to private sector and all, because the TDS provisions is applicable to the where the contractee or where the recipient of the supply is government department or PSU. Then in that particular case, the TDS provisions are applicable. And wherever in the situations wherever the contractor has charged the GST, there and where the contract value is in excess of 2.5 lakh rupees, in that particular case, the TDS has to be deducted while making the payment to such a contractor, even if it is for incurring of the CSR expenses. There is no per se exemption. So these are the normal rules, basically 1% CGST plus 1% SGST in case of intra-state supply is there. The location of supplier and place of supply is in the same state, and IGST 2% in case the location of supplier and place of supply are in different state, that is the interstate supply. So these are the normal provisions, nothing new in it. This we have already done. I think this is it. Thanks, Baki. We can deliberate on the issues and the questions in the question hour. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Salimji. Thank you so much for setting the ball rolling for our session. One quick question. So, ball rolling for our session. One quick question. So, when you say that TDS needs to be deducted when the payments are being made towards CSR, now usually income tax law has a dual kind of a provision. If TDS is not deducted on any particular expenditure, Then, along with the normal TDS penalty provisions or TDS provisions, we also see a situation where the expense is added back partially or completely depending upon the scenario. But here, because CSR typically is not an expense, it's a below the line item. So, what is the treatment of CSR expense if somebody is not deducting the TDS?
This TDS, ma'am, yes, yes. This was the, but that is a very valid question because that, but still some penalties and all are always there. The TDS, the delay, the penalty, and the interest will be applicable in those cases.
Okay, so now that we've got this clarity, let's go forward. As Salimji has already said, there are emerging sort of lines that are now being drawn, whereby when income tax made an amendment in 2014 and clarified under section 37(1) that this is not going to be allowed as an expenditure, one line was drawn. uh, the debate on ATG still continues, except for in block credit cases. I think the ATG in some litigations is allowed. They say if you don't allow it, it's like disallowing the same thing twice. Uh, Similarly, as is clarified by Salimji, GST law has not really completely become clear or evolved. There are litigations on both sides, but the general understanding emerging is that in case we do take ITC, irrespective of the legislative, the litigative nature of that particular transaction, we will have to spend that ITC in any case as if it was part of the additional CSR that needed to be spent. So I think some clarity is coming out of that. Now I'm going to request Gaganji, if you're going to throw some more light on the litigative nature of these provisions and whether you what do you think, in your professional opinion, was the intention purely of the and whether you what do you think, in your professional opinion, was the intention purely of the the government in both GST and even pre-GST service tax also had similar issues, and then the income tax, the government in both GST and even pre-GST service tax also had similar issues, and then the income tax, both separate taxes, how they look like to look at, and where do you think this will lead us in the practical implementation in today's scenario? And where do you think this will lead us in the practical implementation in today's scenario?
Thanks, Veniji. There are two aspects you touched upon. One is on the TDS, non-deductibility of TDS. Now, if you don't deduct TDS, there is a disallowance under 40 AIA. The question there would be that whether that disallowance would at all be attracted in the given case, because explanation 2 to section 37 clearly debars any claim of expense. Here, I would like to also highlight one aspect, that section 37 and explanation 2 particularly creates a deeming fiction that the amount paid for CSR shall not be deemed to be incurred for CSR, shall not be deemed to be incurred for the purpose of business or profession. That kind of deeming fiction, to the best of my knowledge, is not under GST law. So that's one aspect. And we all are aware of this fact that whenever a deeming fiction is created, it is essentially creating accepting a false statement as a true statement. So although there are, by deeming fiction, it is not treated as business expense. Therefore, lately the view which is emerging in the judiciary is that when you claim expense, you are only disallowed this expense in terms of section 37, because disallowed this expense in terms of section 37 because the PGBP, the profit and gains from business or profession. It does not extend to chapter 6A, where you claim deduction under section 80G. Now, I have an observation on the, you talked about the legislative intent, and I copied the legislative intent today. And I'll read just two lines what was stated in the Lok Sabha, that preference for local areas is provided because those people are most affected by operation of the company. CSR does not involve opening a school for making profit. The idea is not to make profit from CSR budget. The idea is to give better quality of life to people that you are working along with. We must have faith in our corporate sector, but if some company wants to work through an NGO or a trust or a foundation or of its own, we must allow them freedom, because if a company has a specialty in education so and so, then there's further in Rajya Sabha it was said that the intent behind CSR expense is to ensure that companies which essentially derive their revenue from communities in which they operate, a part of the same be returned to the community for its betterment and welfare. So the stated legislative intent was that you give back to the society, meaning thereby that it is for the purpose of the business. Now, by virtue of explanation 2, this deeming fiction has been created and that deduction is being disallowed. So there I go to the constitution, that whether such a provision would be constitutionally valid, and I refer to section article 19 clearly provides that I would have a right to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business. So theoretically, there should not be any foundation on me unless it is expressly provided by the Constitution. Sub Article 6 talks about two kind of conditions or impositions which may be imposed upon if they are considered reasonable. One is that in case of a professional activity, there has to be a professional qualification like our profession. So not anybody can practice as a chartered accountant or a lawyer. They have to pass that exam. Secondly, is on the PSU where they are owned or controlled by state, then there are certain activities, certain restrictions on them. So the restrictions on them. So the restriction as to claim it as deduction under section 37(1), to my mind, as to claim it as deduction under section 37(1), to my mind, may vitiate the stipulations in Article 19. Part 2. Hypothetically, the idea was to cover big companies. Now, 500 crore and above, CSR is mandatory. But if I have a net worth of 490 crores, it is not mandatory. Of 490 crores, it is not mandatory. Thereby, if I am incurring expense being a 490 crore company, I would be allowed it as a deduction. But the moment I add 10 more crore in my net worth, then I become ineligible. So would that also go against the principle of equality or violate Article 14 into that extent? That again need to be tested.
Gaganji, just to take that last point, if a company under the 490 turnover category was to make that expenditure but was not categorizing it as a CSR, then I understand what you're saying. It would be an expensible or an expendable amount. But voluntarily, if they were doing CSR under a proper CSR setup, irrespective that they were not obligated to do it, wouldn't the same provisions apply to them as well?
Because then that would not be an expense pursuant to section 135 of Companies Act.
No, 135 creates a provision for mandatory spending. That if you fall in this bracket, then you are liable to do this. But wherever, I think by natural principle also, wherever any organization picks up anything on a voluntary basis, but declares it that it is doing CSR activity on the same category level, but it's a voluntary basis, I think the legal framework would apply to them as well.
It should have, but if you see the language of section 37, it says it is hereby declared that for the purpose of subsection 1, any expenditure incurred by an assessee on the activities relating to CSR referred to in section 135 of the Companies Act. So I can always make out a case that look, whatever I am doing, I am not doing under compulsion in terms of section 135. It is beyond 135. The scheme, the manner of implementation may be identical. But I can always take an argument that since it is not pursuant to section 135, therefore explanation 2 does not hit me.
Okay, so that's a completely new and interesting angle that comes out of this. And another huge level of food for thought, because equality of treatment of the same expense for the same purpose by an organization that is obligated to do it and by an organization that is voluntarily doing it is getting a different treatment, or it can get a different treatment. So I think this is something that probably from this forum, when we take a learning out of this as to whether we need to bring in more acceptability of allowability of expenses of even the organizations that fall under section 135, or whether the organizations that don't fall under 135 and are doing voluntary service in such categories, whether they need to follow the framework and be covered in the deeming section or fiction deeming section. I think we need to have more clarity on this, because you've thrown a very important light about equality, of
Yeah.
the same
I'll
expenditure.
give you one more example. Assuming a partnership firms incur that expense, what
Yes.
would happen then?
Yeah, for them it's just an expenditure.
Yeah. For them, 135 does not apply.
Does not apply. Yes.
So just to draw that parallel.
Yes, I get you. So not only this is a really interesting argument or a observation that has been opened up by you, Gaganji. Would you like to throw some light on that, Salim?
हाँ ma'am, yes ma'am. Actually, I would like to draw the attention that this amendment, this explanation was inserted after this Companies Act 2013 made it mandatory. However, in regard to the public sector undertaking, sir, you must be knowing that from financial year 10-11, the DP had issued a guidelines that we must incur the CSR expenses. So PSUs were incurring since 10-11, and therein there was no, this explanation was not there under section 37. But still, in PFC's assessment, I am telling, the assessing officer had disallowed our such expenses. And although nothing, that section 37 was not there, but still not that there must be a business expense and all. And we are still fighting out, although the cases were settled under Vivad se Vishwas, but still in our cases, and there were multiple in NTPC and all, disputes were there. Some they won, some they lost and all. So even prior to this, the assessing officer was taking that call. It is not a business expense, and accordingly, uh, this won't be allowed as an
Yeah,
expense.
I have argued couple of such cases and I have successfully got those reliefs.
So just one more question, Gaganji. Number of cases. I don't particularly want to know the number of cases. I don't particularly want to know the number of cases, but what is the balance of the number of cases in favor of this kind of an argument and against this argument? And is the assessee company, the organization that is doing CSR, relying on or falling back on this kind of argument?
No,
The assessee company, the organization that is doing CSR, relying on or falling back on this kind of argument?
no, to the best of my ability, best my knowledge, the constitutional validity, I don't think has been tested so far.
So it's not been challenged.
It has not been challenged to the best of my
Okay,
knowledge.
so that's one more wonderful area that has come into the discussion today. So that's one more wonderful area that has come into the discussion today. And with that, I'm going to request Kameshji to come into the discussion. He's on the board of Coal India, as you can see from the placard. I would like him to throw some light on how, Coal India is handling its, because it's a huge organization. It's been doing CSR activity for a very, very long time. And I think they don't stick to the minimum mandated amount. They probably do this voluntarily on a much larger scale. So I'd like to get his perspective as to what his organization is doing, how they are contributing to the welfare of Indian society, and whether they face any challenges at all in these kind of legal implementations.
Thank you, Venuji. First of all, I would like to enter the discussion just going on. I would like to enter the discussion just going on that as much as considering this CSR as a business expenditure or not an expenditure. So first thing is from section 30 to 36, they are very specific and point-wise point that this is for that, this is for that, this is for that. So there is no way for the CSR expense. As much as 37(1) is concerned, there is a word, the expenditure incurred wholly and solely, please be fully for the purpose of its business and profession. So that will be allowed as a deduction under section 37(1). As much as this CSR is concerned, neither this is wholly for the business and profession, nor it is solely for the business profession. This is wholly and solely for the purpose of community welfare. This is not for the business. So that's why this is not a business expenditure as much as my opinion is concerned. So because this is not an expenditure, so no way to claim an business expenditure. Then if it is not an expenditure, then what is it? Very simple. I think this is simply an application of income. Whatever income the business or the entity has to earn, it has already earned. Now, this expenditure is simply an application of income. Now, earlier you came to ATG. So, ATG, what ATG says? ATG says, if you have given your money means your hardcore earned money. You are giving here, there. So, you will get in reward this. So, this is the reward for the application of income. So it can't be denied. I think so. This is again my opinion. So these are the two things regarding those things. Yes, as much as
How is the? Can you just throw some more light? Can you just throw some more light on the activities undertaken by Coal India and how whether they face any challenges with respect to this TDS on GST issue, general TDS issue, or any other input tax credit issues and all of those kind of
yes,
things.
madam. Yes, madam. First of all, I would like to give you some particular data in absolute that how the give you some particular data in absolute that how the Coal India is working in that field. You see, we have just gone the financial year 2021-22. So the CSR expenditure booked in the profit and loss account for this CSR is 548.98 CR for the Coal India Limited as a whole, consolidated, including all the subsidiaries. So the amount was 548.98 crores out of a profit of 17,378.42 crores. It comes to 3.16% of the profit. The legal requirement is minimum 2%, means at least 2%. 2% will do, more than 2% will betterly do. But here it is not 2, it is 3.16%. Earlier in previous year, means in the year 2022, 2020 and 21, the amount was 3.54%. It was in absolute terms 449.31 crores, the incurred by Coal India Limited as CSR expenditure. In 2019-20, it has incurred 587.84, that is 3.52%. Every time Coal India is reactive, means compulsive because of the law. So Coal India, from the very beginning, before the enactment of this Section 135 and all that, it is since long doing its activities in corporate social responsibility. At that moment, the name was Community Services. Its name was Community Services at that time. Then keeping ahead, now that as per the policy of Coal India, this was also a matter of debate in this seminar, that how much expenditure has to be incurred where. So Coal India is having different subsidiaries. They are working in different states and different parts of particular states. So policies, because coal extracting from the earth, it is a डिस्टर्बिंग एक्टिविटी मीन्स जहां पर ये एक्टिविटी होती है वहां का जो इंडिजीनियस लोकल कम्युनिटीज हैं उनका जो सारा लाइफ ताना बाना सामाजिक होता है, उनका आर्थिक, वो सब डिस्टर्ब हो जाता है। मीन्स वो पूरा लैंड जो है किलोमीटर टू किलोमीटर पूरा डिस्टर्ब होता है, एक्सट्रैक्ट किया जाता है, उनका रोजी रोटी सब कुछ डिस्टर्ब होता है। तो उनको रिहेबिलिटेट करना पड़ता है, उनको अदरवाइज दूसरी जगहों पर पुनर्वासित करना पड़ता है, उनको रोजगार देना पड़ता है, उनके बच्चों का फ्यूचर क्रिएट आगे ठीक रहे, उसके लिए बहुत कुछ करना पड़ता है, क्योंकि उनको सबसे ज्यादा सफर करना पड़ रहा है, तो उसका बेनिफिट भी सबसे ज्यादा को मिलना ही चाहिए। दिस इज बट द नेचुरल जस्टिस। तो इसमें ऐसा नहीं कोल इंडिया गलत कर रहा, बल्कि बहुत अच्छा करता है। 80% ऑफ देयर टोटल अमाउंट दे इनकर्ड इन नियर बाई एरिया, मीन्स अप्रोक्सीमेटली 25 किलोमीटर, जहां 25 किलोमीटर के अंदर लगा देते हैं वो। रिमेनिंग 20%, ये सब्सिडरी का बात बता रहा हूँ, क्योंकि वर्किंग तो सारा सब्सिडरी का ही होता है, कोल इंडिया में एज ए होल कंसोलिडेट हो जाता है वो। 20% दे इनकर एज एन एक्सपेंडिचर इन दैट एनीवेयर इन दैट स्टेट। वहां पर प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है, नहीं चल रहा है, क्या है वो, मिस जहां भी कोई जरूरत है अदरवाइज भी, तो वहां पर इसको इनकर करना इस तरह से। जहां तक कोल इंडिया लिमिटेड एज ए कंसोलिडेटेड की बात है, वो ऑल ओवर इंडिया कहीं पर भी कोई रिक्वायरमेंट आता है तो वो वहां लगाते हैं। डिफरेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, जैसे एक प्रेम आश्रय नाम से टाटा, अगर किसी का जानकारी में आया हो, टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट है जो कि कैंसर का बहुत बड़ा हॉस्पिटल है कोलकाता में। अब यू सी कैंसर एक ऐसा डिजीज है जिसके लिए कोई 2 दिन, 4 दिन, 6 दिन, 8 दिन, 12 दिन, 1 महीना में ट्रीटमेंट नहीं पॉसिबल है। वहां पर जाना पड़ेगा, मंथ्स टू मंथ्स आपको वहां पेशेंट को रहना पड़ेगा। अब हॉस्पिटल में पेशेंट तो एडमिट हो गया, बट अकेला पेशेंट को छोड़ के आने से तो नहीं चलेगा। द अटेंडेंट्स, इस फैमिली, कोई ना कोई तो वहां पे रहना होगा। अभी वो लोग कहाँ रहे? अभी वो लोग होटल में रहते हैं तो बाजा बज जाना है। तो उनके लिए कोल इंडिया ने पूरा अच्छा खर्चा करके एक पूरा बिल्डिंग बनवा दिया, और वो बिल्डिंग में कोई भी जो कैंसर पेशेंट है, ये डेथ श्योर है, पेशेंट रह सकते हैं, नो वन एल्स। तो वहां पर वो लोग रह सकते हैं। छोटे छोटे एक 1 रूम या 2 रूम वाले सेट्स बना दिए हैं विद किचन, छोटा छोटा किचन भी दे दिया है कि आप अपना सब्जी, आटा, चावल बाहर से लाओ, यहाँ पे रहो। बहुत मार्जिनल किराया देना होता है, जिससे ऐसा भी ना हो कि लोग आके बस जाए वहाँ, तो वो भी नहीं है। मतलब हर एवरी सबको बैलेंस करना है, तो वो थोड़ा थोड़ा वहाँ पर बना दिया, तो बहुत मार्जिनल रेंट पर वो लोग वहाँ रहती हैं पूरी फैमिली। हम खुद जाकर मिले उन लोगों से देखने के लिए भाई कि रियली सीएसआर हो रहा है या कागजों में तो नहीं हो रहा है। तो हम बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट पर खुद जा जाके देखे हैं, वहां जाकर चाय पिए हैं, जो लोग वहां रह रहे थे उनसे बात की है, भाई कब से रह रहे हैं आप लोग, क्या है, सब एक्सपीरियंस लिया। वो बिल्कुल है। लास्ट हमने बोला कि भाई इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट और इसका उसका सब प्रॉब्लम्स का क्या है। तो बेसिकली कोल इंडिया इज वेरी वेरी वेरी, आई कैन से जेंट कैटेगरी ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, बहुत बड़ी है। तो उनके यहाँ पूरा पूरा डिपार्टमेंट्स हर चीज के लिए बने हुए हैं। सीएसआर का अलग डिपार्टमेंट है, इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट के लिए अलग डिपार्टमेंट है, इवन कंप्लायंस ऑफिसर्स पूरे सेपरेटली। अदरवाइज तो क्या होता है, एक ही ऑफिसर पर बहुत सारे ड्यूटीज होते हैं, वहां पर इनके लिए कंप्लायंस ऑफिसर सेपरेटली डेजिग्नेटेड है, पोस्टेड है। उनका काम इतना ही है कि कोई भी डेफिशिएंसी नहीं होना चाहिए, कंप्लायंस पूरा हो। सारे कंप्लायंसेस वहाँ 1 to 1 होते हैं, वो सब बोर्ड की मीटिंग में आते हैं। क्वार्टरली सारे कंप्लायंसेस का रिपोर्ट बोर्ड की मीटिंग में आता है, वो सब चेक होते हैं। कहीं पर कोई अगर कमी डेफिशिएंसी आ जाए तो फिर वो सारा डिस्कस होता है। तो आज तक कोई ऐसा डेफिशिएंसी आया नहीं वहां पर, तो एवरीथिंग इज वेरी मच स्मूथ। और कोल इंडिया बहुत अच्छा इसमें काम कर रहा है सीएसआर में।
Thank you so much, Kamesh ji. And I think although as you said, giant organization, but ये सोच के और ये सुन के हमें भी एक अच्छा अनुभव होता है कि CSR एक्टिविटी को, जैसे कि पिछले फोरम में भी, और एक जनरल कंसेंसस, एक हमारा माइंडसेट है कि क्या ये पैसा सही जगह जा रहा है, क्या ये पैसा जहाँ लगना चाहिए वहाँ लग रहा है, क्या इट्स मेकिंग अ डिफरेंस, क्या हम सिर्फ एक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बना के खड़ा कर देते हैं जिसको कि फाइनेंशियली या अकाउंटिंग का एंगल लेके अपनी किताबों में से निकाल के किसी संस्था को दे देते हैं, पर क्या उसका यूज भी हो रहा है कि नहीं, क्या उसका कोई मिस यूज तो नहीं हो रहा है, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा। बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हमारे माइंड में रहते हैं। तो आई थिंक मे बी होता भी होगा, ऐसा नहीं है कि ये सब चीजें होती नहीं है, लेकिन इट्स नाइस टू हियर, इट्स नाइस टू सी, एक ऑथेंटिकेशन मिलती है आपसे कि एज अ डायरेक्टर ऑन द बोर्ड यू फील दैट द मनी हैज गॉन टू द राइट प्लेस, दैट यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ व्हाट यू इंटेंडेड for that project is actually happening. So although that went slightly, is drawing lines, litigation is kind of making a area for structured spending, for input tax credit availment or not, for TDSs, compliances or not. I think there are more challenges in store for us. The way Gaganji has put up, where he's where he said that even the constitutional validity of the expenditure not being an allowable expenditure could be challenged at some point of time because of the deeming nature of this particular section in income tax. So we don't have all the answers at this forum, but we do know the questions now at this forum. Of course, a usual sort of guidance that a professional gives to any client, or that a client or an SSE who is, or a company, an organization that is doing the CSR activity would in any case go with, is always to be on the side of prudence. So keeping that in mind, I think most organizations are not availing the ITC, or if they are adding it back to the CSR expend. They are deducting TDS irrespective of whether there is a penalty clause or not, and they are more or less not, taking this expenditure in the allowable category. ATG, again, I'm given to understand, even from my personal experience, many organizations are taking the ATG donation component, especially where they are not spending on a project but are donating to an organization that may be an implementation agency, and availing this ATG, which is litigative in nature, no doubt. Some. Can she be given a mic, please? Hmm. Ma'am, you can introduce yourself and you can let us know if the question is for any one person in the panel or anybody can answer.
My name is Pooja Prasad. I am from Central Coalfields Limited, which is a subsidiary of Coal India Limited. Uh, my question is related to unspent CSR account, because one of the technical session was for treatment of unspent amount. Since the start of this session in the morning, we have been discussing many things like aspirational districts and all. So, under TADP program of the Government of India, there are 120 aspirational districts, out of which 19 are in Jharkhand. And out of those 19 districts, 8 belong to, specifically belong to our command zone. And we are working in all the aspirational districts. Now, the head of the aspirational district is a district administration. So, whatever work we want to do in an aspirational district, we have to transfer the funds to the district administration. But and there are instances wherein the fund is transferred, but the amount is not utilized. So they have to return it so that we can deposit it in the unspent CSR account. Now the problem is, if the district administration is neither giving the UC or nor refunding the amount, then where are we going to book that amount? Because technically that amount is not with us, but it should have been with us in the unspent CSR account. And the second thing is, how can we avoid the penalty then? If the administration is not refunding us, we are not able to book it in our unspent CSR account. It's not with us. So how are we going to avoid the penalty post that?
So, ma'am, while I can open this for a question to everybody in the forum, I think they can answer. But one thing I'd like to put in perspective: the onus of spending rests with you as far as the company is concerned,
True.
right? Now, when you decide to spend through somebody, and that somebody could be an implementing organization, that somebody could be the DM, it could be a government body, it could be anybody.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that is a contract between the company and that particular organization, whoever is that implementing agency or the DM.
Right.
So your paperwork has to be so strong that there have to be enough penalty clauses mentioned in that. Number one, if that amount is not refunded. Number two, as I see it, this is more it's more an implementation and a sort of organizational issue than a legal issue to begin with. Usually, in such cases, what happens is that there are parameters based on which the funds are released. That when the first level is going to be completed and a proof of that is given, only the second level will be released, and so
Yeah,
on.
stage wise payment.
In the not refunded to you, that amount is not going to be treated as a CSR spend.
Right.
You are unable to, for practical difficulties, put that money into an account. So you will just have to make up from whatever other portions of the budget you have, or you will have to allocate an additional budget till such money comes back to you to ensure that you complete your 2% the way it is meant to be completed. And if you cannot put some money into the unspent amount, then typically that has to be driven through the legal recourse only.
Yeah, because the
If it goes under litigation,
Yeah.
if it's a legal recourse and it goes under litigation, I don't think you will have an issue with that. But I will ask Gaganji also to And Salimji, if you want to.
No, I agree with you. If they have not spent money, probably you can sue them for criminal breach of trust. But that's more of a policy issue, which is dependent on the organization. So not from a tax perspective, I don't see any major issue.
And further, in this regard, this MCA has issued the FAQs. If you see, Ministry of
April,
Corporate Affairs had issued the
August
FAQs on MC,
2021.
on so what ma'am said. This point is covered in one of the questions, that utilization has not been received and all. So MCA is of the view it will be regarded as unspent only. It won't, and they have also stated you must basically disperse so much amount only, which you are sure that it will be utilized by the end of the financial year. So as per the MCA also, the statement is that it will be regarded as spent only.
Unspent amount with separate account utilized for ongoing project the same year. If that is the rule by MCA, in that case there shouldn't be much difficulty in having utilization of
It
these.
can be utilized over 3 years. See,
Yeah.
the law says that
This morning.
the law. Okay, so let's clarify. The law says that in case some money has been given to an organization to spend, and they have not been able to spend it within that financial year, then before the end of that financial year, that money should come back. There is a designated period of, I think, 30 days or something, within which an account should be opened and that money should be put there specifically for that project. Now, there can be a further clarification that Salimji can give, whether unspent amount in multiple projects can be put in one account or whether there should be multiple bank accounts for that. That's a procedural thing, but I think he can clarify that money should be put into that bank account, and on that very project it can be utilized over a period of total 3 years. If even at the end of 3 years it's not utilized, then it is unspent. And if your budget is within 2%, I mean just 2% on the dot, then there are penal consequences for that. Yes, please.
Hello. One question is here on GST.
Yes.
Suppose to that company expense directly, one example, both so many disabled persons and he company purchased from the manufacturer the wheelchairs and donate to the disabled persons, but that company already paid GST yeah, on that, but after the distribution of the wheelchairs,
Whether the distribution of wheelchair will be subjected to GST or not, no GST should apply, because you are ultimately giving it to the ultimate beneficiaries and all who are handicapped. So once GST has already been paid on the wheelchairs, so that is a separate question whether ITC would be available or not. But if ITC is not being availed, then no GST on the distribution of wheelchair per se.
no GST.
No GST.
If suppose already paid
Because
that,
there is no, actually there is no as such quid pro quo is there, not there, because that beneficiary is not paying any amount to you. You are distributing free of cost and all. Although there may be an issue that in the wheelchair your logo is there and all, the department may create a issue that there is a advertisement, there is a publicity. But strictly if we say that, although there will be always be a gray area, if in the wheelchair your company logo is there, your name is there, the department may say it is a sort of publicity, it is an advertisement. So accordingly GST speaking, if we see, so no GST will be there.
By so and so. Usually, a CSR initiative where these kind of things result in some kind of a benefit to the organization, they fall into the gray area. You can be asked for the GST component, because the only thing that does not attract GST is a pure donation. If you derive any kind of benefit out of it, even if it's by way of branding, then it's not pure donation. Intention is donation, but it doesn't. The resultant is not pure donation.
And on a lighter note,
one more question.
On a lighter note, gray areas are left so that people with grace can make more money.
One more that question. Education, tuition fees collecting from the students. That for the purpose of education fees, uh, that is GST applicable or not?
No, I think there is a specific exemption.
Uh-huh.
On exemption, yeah, in education, there is a specific exemption on the GST category. And in any case, how will that form a part of CSR? That cannot form a part of CSR. CSR would be when an organization makes the school. CSR would be when an organization starts supplementing salaries or midday meals or something for the students that are studying there. Collection of fees from the students in any case is not a part of the CSR activity. In fact, there is an understanding that CSR activities are not supposed to generate any surplus. However, if there is a surplus that has come out of an activity, not by intent, but by the nature of that activity, then if my understanding is correct, that surplus has to be plowed back into the CSR activity. It cannot be kept in any organization. It's very, very clear, the law around that, if I'm not mistaken. I think probably one area where there's no ambiguity. Yes, please. Please give ma'am mic. Yeah, please introduce yourself, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm Malvika. I'm from Engineers India Limited. I'm AGM CSR there. So one issue we are facing currently is about some project fund money that we had transferred to the unspent account. Now it has closed, but at a lesser value because we paid on actual basis as per the project thing. So like, for example, if it's for 50 lakhs we had transferred, so it has finished at 48 lakhs. So the 2 lakhs, can we put
2 lakhs spent on some other activity to cover it in case you fall out of that level.
No, we are not falling short.
So then
but
this has
that-
to go back as per the company rules into,
So we
this
need
cannot
not
be
put-
spent on anything else.
So we need not put it into the Schedule 7 funds like they say na, that is remaining in the unspent after 3
No,
years.
unspent is usually governed, if I'm not mistaken, by the first year, and then that it has to be
Plus
spent
the-
on the project within a certain time.
Yeah.
Your question is that the project is over.
Yeah.
After that, also something is left
Yeah.
in the fund. So
Yeah.
probably you over budgeted.
Yeah, because on actual basis it's finished. Some
That's okay.
equipment
So probably you over budgeted. If
Yeah.
you are not, Commission says that it will get carried forward and be added to the next year's CSR budget, then it
Okay.
will simply be carried forward.
Yeah,
The
we can
account will
propose
be
along
closed.
with
This
the
will come
budget.
to a normal bank account and it will be carried forward.
Okay.
But in case your board resolution says that once an amount that is allocated for
Yeah.
CSR over and above the minimum threshold
yeah.
is not spent, then it lapses. Then it will not be carried forward. Then a fresh
Okay.
budget will be created for the next year. This is usually, in my understanding, board driven, but I'll be
Okay.
happy if somebody else wants to differ.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
A very good evening to all of you. My name is Ruchi Gupta. I'm from NBCC India Limited. My question to the forum is that, sometimes it happens, ma'am, it become very difficult to get the utilization certificate well in time. Suppose in one of our project in subsidiary, we choose to provide food facility to the government schools, to the students. And during that time, COVID happens. So what had happened that school get closed and we won't be able to complete our project to provide the food to the children. In that scenario, it become very difficult to get the utilization certificate because the CSR amount is not utilized, and we cannot consider it as a ongoing project kind of thing.
Ma'am, again, if I'm not mistaken, when COVID happened, if I'm not mistaken, people can correct me, there were relaxations in these provisions where certain time frames were increased for people for everything. And in the General Clauses Act also, when a calamity like this happens and every deadline has been extended, I think you could have spent this. Again, you were not even also able to put it in an unspent account. You couldn't get the money back. So specifically because of that closure period that happened or the schools that got affected, I think a board resolution could have been passed to that effect or would have been passed to that effect. And accordingly, that money would have been spent on the same activity as soon as the schools would have opened.
We mean
So you
carry
can carry
forward
it
that
forward. Yes,
carry
yes,
forward that
yes,
amount to a particular
yes.
section.
And there have been instances where everybody has gone very sort of congenially over these kind of issues, because everybody knew that it's possible that your CSR activity could not be
Means it-
carried out at all because it was not in your hands at that point of time.
Yeah, definitely. Means it won't affect in our annual report, like.
Of course,
being
you
a-
have to disclose everything in your
mentioned in
annual report. Whatever is written there, you have to disclose that.
Arun Saxena,
Ji Arun ji.
managing partner of Saxena and Saxena Law Chambers.
Ji ji.
See, first of all, I will say on this, which she has raised a question. So Supreme Court has already given a direction and excluded the COVID period
Yeah.
for the all kind of the limitations.
That's right.
So she is very well covered in that. So this is nothing to do.
Yeah.
On that circular is, and this judgment is to be referred.
That's right.
This is one thing. Second thing on the unspent. See, there are two, only 30 days are given. After expiry of the financial year, within 30 days, unspent amount is to be invested in the funds as per Schedule 7. So for an ongoing project is concerned, then 3 years window is given. During that window, they have to spend that amount. If after 3 years, they have not spent the amount as required in threshold limit 2%, then balance amount will go to the fund. And if, yes, this is what, that time I wanted to intervene. So this is what I wanted to just clarify. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Just a moment. Yes, Usha ma'am.
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि हम सीएसआर में फंड सैंक्शन करते हैं। फंड जब हम सैंक्शन करते हैं किसी भी संस्था को तो उनको टाइम लिमिट रहता है, राइट? टाइम लिमिट 3 इयर्स का रहा, 3 इयर्स में वो प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ तो फिर हम उनको कितना 6 मंथ 1 ईयर एक्सटेंशन देते हैं। आफ्टर 6 मंथ या 1 ईयर का एक्सटेंशन के बाद भी वो प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ तो क्या वो फंड हम उनसे रिटर्न लेके माने उनका प्रपोजल को कैंसिल करके वो फंड कहीं और हम यूज कर सकते हैं?
So मैम अगेन नंबर 1 नहीं कर सकते, नंबर 2 आई डोंट थिंक आपको 3 साल के लिए रुकना है।
हाँ मैम,
आपको
after 3
पहले
years.
नहीं, आपको फर्स्ट ही ईयर के अंदर इसको माइलस्टोन ड्राइव करना है।
जी।
और because this is more as I said it's a procedural issue rather than a legal issue. आपने जब किसी को भी कोई CSR के लिए फंडिंग देना है, you've agreed that this for example यहाँ पर एक सेट ऑफ टॉयलेट्स बनेंगे, लेट्स एग्जाम्पल, एंड एरिया डिमार्केटेड है, थोड़ा सा पैसा रिलीज किया और काम स्टॉल हो गया तो आप आगे का पैसा रिलीज ही नहीं करेंगे,
राइट?
सो रिलीज ही नहीं करेंगे तो वो 3 ईयर वाले थ्रेशोल्ड और उस सब की प्रॉब्लम आएगी ही नहीं। आप तो फर्स्ट ईयर के अंदर ही उसका काम खत्म कर देंगे। बट सपोज वो सेकंड ईयर तक ऑनगोइंग प्रोजेक्ट था, जो अनस्पेंट अमाउंट थी वो आपने अकाउंट में डाला हुआ था, उसमें से आप खर्च रहे हैं, तो जिस लेवल पर आपको ये दिखाई देगा कि ये प्रोजेक्ट स्टॉल हो रहा है उसी लेवल पे आपको उसे बंद करना पड़ेगा, नंबर 1। नंबर 2, अगर 3 ईयर के एंड में वो प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट नहीं होता है तो उनसे पैसे वापस लेके आपको वो शेड्यूल में डालने पड़ेंगे जो वो है, और आपका 2% पूरा करने के लिए कोई और कैटेगरी से आपकी स्पेंडिंग हो जानी चाहिए, वो पेनल्टी प्रोन हो जाएगा। वुड यू लाइक टू ऐड?
मेरा जो क्वेश्चन है दैट इज सेपरेट फ्रॉम दिस थिंग बट समवॉट रिलेटेड, द टेन्योर ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट्स 1+3 years tenure. CCL has been running some flagship projects since 2012 and some of those projects are long-term projects continuing year after year and have won national awards as well. So the problem is now after the enactment of this act, we are now skeptical how to continue these projects. Like one of a project, for example, is CCL ke Lal Ladli, wherein we teach.
Sorry, the project is what?
CCL ke Lal and CCL ki Ladli, and another one is running of Sports Academy in collaboration with Jharkhand government, wherein we have 437 sports cadets. These are children of the age group 8 to 16 years, and we are providing free education, food, lodging, and everything. Apart from that, we are giving them training in 10 sports discipline of Olympic sports discipline, and we are preparing them for Mission Olympics. So it is a continual project, and it has started further because our 3-year clause, we were planning
to bifurcate. This particular year, you know that a budget of rupees so much is needed to spend for this project. You've budgeted it, you spent it, it's closed. Next year, you budget again and you spend it. Third year, you budget again and you spend it. Why should you budget for 3 years together and
No,
treat it as an
initially
ongoing
we
project?
were budgeting that way, but
It's okay. Your board resolutions can review that. The board within the framework of the legality and the acts that drive this in Companies Act scenario and other scenarios, ultimately it is the board's decision that works.
Right.
So you may have started something in 2015 in view of a new legislation that has come up or in view of a new section that
तो मैंने कि वो अच्छा किया, मुझे लगता है कि ये सेशन आपको अच्छा लगा होगा क्योंकि इसमें प्रेजेंटेशन नहीं थी कोई और ये आपका इंटरेक्शन टॉपिक था। एक बार जो तालियों से मैंने कि वो अच्छा किया, मुझे लगता है कि ये सेशन आपको अच्छा लगा होगा क्योंकि इसमें प्रेजेंटेशन नहीं थी कोई और ये आपका इंटरेक्शन टॉपिक था। एक बार जो तालियों से आप ये सलीम जी का तो आपने एक स्पेशल केस में कंसीडर किया तो मैंने कहा कर लीजिए, अदरवाइज तो आपने इसको लाइव रखा। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। अब मैं चाहूँगा 2 मिनट में जो हमारे अतिथि आए हैं उनका स्वागत करें। मैं आप मुनी कृष्णन जी ECI अभी है क्या? आइए, जो हमारे अतिथि आए हैं उनका स्वागत करें। मैं आप मुनी कृष्णन जी ECI अभी है क्या? आइए, आप बेनी जी को एक मेमोटो देके उनका अभी जी आप भी रहो, वो लास्ट सेशन लेगा उसके बाद फिर हाईटी। कामेश कांत आचार्य जी के लिए मैं इनवाइट करता हूँ। प्रदीप गोसिन जी हैं, आप IRCTC से है क्या? IRCTC से कोई है? आप आइए प्लीज। राइट से रंजी कपूर जी हैं, वो भी श्वेता पाटिल जी का करेंगे इसके बाद। रंजी जी, श्वेता जी का। राइट से मोहम्मद फराज जी हैं, आप आइए। मोहम्मद सलीम जी का आप स्वागत करिए। गौरव जी कहते हैं लास्ट नोट द लिस्ट। तो गौरव जी बहुत बड़े एडवोकेट हैं और इनकी किताब है इसमें टैक्सेशन पे। ये ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया से नीरज जी हैं। आइए सर एक बार गौरव जी। हो सकता है बहुत सारा टाइम कम होता नहीं तो लगता है कि बहुत सारी चीजें स्पीकर बोलना चाहता है, टाइम कम होता है, तो ऐसा महसूस हुआ वो किसी स्पीकर को। लेकिन अगली बार हम सेशन 2 दिन का रखेंगे, सोच रहे हैं। लास्ट टाइम संजय मेहता जी, फराज जी ने, बहुत सारे लोगों ने देखा होगा कि बहुत ज्यादा एक्टिव रहा। 2 दिन का था तो बहुत ही ज्यादा इंटरेक्टिव रहा। आज पता नहीं क्यों शांत बैठे हैं, उनके डायरेक्टर साहब बैठे इसलिए उनको लग रहा है कि हैं। ये तो इन्होंने लास्ट टाइम मेरे ख्याल 50 क्वेश्चन इन्होंने रेज करे होंगे, आई थिंक सो। लेकिन इस बार शांत बैठे, कोई बात नहीं। वे थैंक यू। एक ग्रुप फोटो के लिए आप आ जाए, फिर उसके बाद नेक्स्ट सेशन की तैयारी रवि जी आप ही कर लो। रवि जी नेक्स्ट सेशन की तैयारी आप ही कर लो, ठीक है। आप भी आइए, आप लोग आइए, आप भी आइए, अच्छा लगेगा।
बैठे बैठे लैक्टिक एसिड बन रहा वो भी।
आप मस्जिद से आए तो भी
Last session for the day. Please a good round of applause for him. Welcome, sir. Welcome. And he would be providing the session. And I am handing over the mic to him, and he will take care of the list. Uh, I would like to invite Shri Virendra Kumar Mishra ji to please come on stage and join us. Welcome, sir. Good applause for sir, please. And then I would like to invite Arun Saxena, sir. Arun, sir, please welcome on the dais, sir. Guys, this is the last session. Please keep the energy going. Thank you. Miss Aarti Ahuja. Welcome, ma'am.
So good afternoon to everybody, and I think I'm told that this is the last session. I have with me on my left, Shri Virendra Kumar Mishra, IPS, Assistant Inspector of Police, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Then on my right, so college. So thank you for joining us, Aarti here. Shri Ravi Sethi, he is a founder of CSR Foundation. The Profess Group. Of the Profess Group, okay. Yes, of the Profess Group. I think we were to have Mr. Rajan. Is he coming? Ravi Rajan? No. He's not coming. So I think our topic today is a very hot topic to start with. Compliances and penal provisions under Companies Act. Of course, I have very opinion as compared to the opinion which has been discussed in the previous session, because I feel that any penalties or prosecution or anything which has to be levied, it can be levied only within the four corners of law, very clearly specified in the act. No FAQs or rules can really levy a penalty on somebody. Rules and FAQs can only clarify what is there in the law. They cannot expand the horizon of law. So one crucial question which I want to actually request Mr. Arun Saxena to actually offer as to what is unspent amount. You know, the question is, somebody was asking the question here, I think from Central Coalfield, that yes, I think you're asking. And I am a former director of Coal India Board, so I understand Central Coalfield very well. So Central Coalfield was asking that we have unspent amount and we have given money that the DM is not actually spending that money. I think that was your question. So I really do not know. My personal view is completely different as compared to what was given in the last session. To the DM, of course, as Veniji very rightly said, you should have given in stages. But the conditions in which Central Coalfield works, sometimes you succumb to the pressure of the government dignitaries and you release the money. Once you have released the money, in my humble submissions, once you have released the money in terms of a contract, as far as the company is concerned, company has spent the money. And company is, of course, responsible for spending the money. But company, once the money has been given to them by them for a project which is entitled under Schedule 7, in my humble submission, no penalty, no prosecution, no action can be initiated against the company under any circumstance. If any action will be taken, that will be taken against that DM who actually had taken that money and has not spent it within the time which he was supposed to spend it. But as far as you are concerned, once you have released the money has been released. Money has been released with the proper objective, no hanky-panky around. So I don't think there is anything for Central Coalfield to really worry about in such a situation. Because I feel money spent is as soon as you release the money, it amounts to spending the money. Some people feel that, utilization certificate has not come. What will happen? So there's nothing called utilization certificate in the law. What law is talking is impact assessment. law has talked that once you are given the money, you need to do an impact assessment. So I think during the impact assessment process, possibly you can always identify whether the district magistrate concerned or the person to whom you have actually distributed the money, given the money, that particular CSR agency, whether that has actually spent the money rightly or not rightly. And I think मैं request करूंगा अरुण जी से प्रकाश डालेंगे unspent के अलावा whether actually the money can be released to DMs now after this new provisions where a CSR agency has to be an agency which has to be registered with the MCA. So can we really give money to the government agencies like this or to the state government and things like? I would request Arun ji kindly deal with the provisions in a little detail in your own lucid manner क्योंकि एक बार आप समझाते हैं तो पूरी बात सबको अच्छे से समझ में आ जाती है तो इसलिए क्वेश्चंस कम आए इस हिसाब से आप अच्छे से समझा दीजिए तो सबके दिमाग में बैठ जाए ऐसे ऐसे पेनल्टी नहीं लग सकती और बच जाएगी बस असली बात है कैसे बचेगी ये बताइए
Thank you, Vinodji. Good afternoon, everyone. See, I am not here to tell you how to save the penalty, but I am here to tell you what is the compliance is required. If you make the compliance, there will be no penalty. So, first of all, we have to understand what are the compliances board need to do, CSR committee need to do. Then only we can understand where are the lapses in the compliances and panel provisions are there. I will come first on the panel provision because Vinodji is very much pressing on the panel provision. There are two types of the panel provision in this section 135. One is on unspent money, spending, and transfer of the funds, unspent money to the funds, etc., etc. There is a panel provision. The amount required, twice of the amount required to be invested in the funds, or rupees 1 crore, whichever is less. And for the officer in default, that is the 1/10 of the amount required, or rupees 25 lakhs or 25 lakhs, whichever is less. This is for this unspent amount, funding, and this thing. Second requirement is constitution of the CSR committee. CSR committee is required to be constituted only if your required spending is more than 50 lakhs. Right? If you don't constitute the committee, then on reason therefore why me this is not end. That is the given in the law that if there is no penalty provided in any law, any section of the Companies Act, then residual section will be applicable for the penalty. So non-compliance of any provision of this act has the penalty. It's the other thing, ROCs, they are not giving you notices for such penalty, but as per law, within four corners of the law, as Vinodji says, so that penalty is to be leviable. So two kinds of the penalties are, Vinodji. Compliances is constitution of CSR committee, and then spent 2% of the average 3 years profit. We know. Third is annual return of the CSR board has to give. Implementation and oversee of the projects. See, if we go, I will just go through with, I have just briefly prepared for you.
You want to present it?
No, it's all right. PPT I don't have. So responsibility of the board, I will just quickly say, this is a constitution of the CSR committee, then approve the CSR policy on the recommendation of the committee. Disclose the contents of the policy in the board report and placed on the website of the company. Ensure that activity as per CSR policies are being undertaken by the company. Ensure that amount spent 2% of whatever is required, it is spent all. Board has to see it is disbursed for the approved purposes. In case of an ongoing project, the board shall monitor the implementation of the project. See, the ongoing project can be, it's not necessary, it should be for only for 3 years. It can be 10, it can be 5 years. So, as the group said, there is a impact analysis, and it is required if your average required spending is more than 10 crores, then every year you have to conduct an impact analysis for the amount of the project spending more than 1 crore. Every year board has to do this study, and implementation, this progress has to be assessed and report to the board. So it is not like that. So every year you have to make the assessment and for ongoing project, and make the proper budget for that, and give the money for the spending. So this is important. One more thing is very important. I clarified by sitting there also, is the unspent amount. Unspent amount, according to me, on two kind. One is ongoing project, second is other project. For other project, within 30 days of the end of the financial year, we have to transfer that unspent amount to the fund as per the Schedule 7. For ongoing project only, the provisions are that you, after end of the year, within 6 months, you have to transfer this amount to a special amount account opened for CSR unspent amount, or that amount has to be spent in 3 following years. And if there is still an unspent amount at the end of the third financial year, then within 30 days from the end of the third financial year, you have to transfer that amount to the fund under the Schedule 7 within 30 days of the end of that financial year. This is the requirement. If we don't do this, we have violated this provision and penalty will be levied. It's very clear. Unspent amount is 2% is the threshold, and 2% if I have transferred, suppose 2% is 1 year we have transferred, it is not spent. So next year, 2%, whatever required is there, and my carryover amount will be there, that has to be spent in 2 years. And it will go on year-to-year basis for the calculation of the unspent amount. I think I am clear. So, Vinodji, my submission or my just change is, unspent can be two kind of, and we have to see the unspent amount and calculate the unspent amount vis-a-vis to the required 2% eligibility.
I'll fine tune my question, Arunji,
Yes.
to be little more precise.
Yes.
You have allocated money, for example, for relief to poor, and 1 crore you have given to Mother Teresa Foundation. See, you have already given 1 crore before 31st March. That was the time limit. Now, Mother Teresa Foundation, you have given it on 28th March, sometime on 15th March. As far as the company is concerned, as soon as that money is given, it is non-returnable. You have donated the money, it has gone to it, they have issued a receipt, and for relief to the poor, you have given. It is not an ongoing project in that sense.
I will just intervene, Vinodji, here.
Ji.
We have not donated it. If there is two things. If we have donated, it's a different case. If we have appointed implementing agency, it's a different thing. Donation is totally different than the implementing agency. And my unspent on ongoing project applicable on the implementing agencies, not for the institution where I donated.
But that is what I was trying to fine tune it. No, sir, you're very rightly. No, मैंने ये कहा ना सर कि ये अरुण जी जो हैं ये बिल्कुल डाइसेक्ट कर देंगे प्रॉब्लम को, इसीलिए प्रॉब्लम को आपके सामने में दूसरे तरीके से कि आपने डोनेट कर दिया किसी को, अब वो डोनेशन में जो डोनी है आपका, उसका काम ही यही है भी रिलीफ टू द पुअर, ये एजुकेशन है, आपने इंस्टीट्यूशन, आपका स्कूल है, आपने स्कूल को डोनेट कर दिया, कॉलेज है क्या कॉलेज को डोनेट कर दिया, आपने कहा भी ठीक है आप एजुकेशन एक्टिविटीज में लगाइए क्योंकि आप योर चैरिटेबल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, आपका तो काम ही एजुकेशन है, फॉर गरीबों की एजुकेशन के लिए आप काम करते हैं, या आप रेड क्रॉस सोसाइटी हैं, आप रक्तदान का काम करते हैं, ऐसी सब चीजों के लिए हम दे सकते हैं पैसे जो शेड्यूल 7 की लिस्ट में आता है। अब आपने पैसे दे दिए, अब सवाल यह है कि उसके बाद पैसे देने के बाद डोनेशन, आई एम ऑन डोनेशन सर फर्स्ट, डोनेशन देने के बाद
unspent does not applicable.
That is what only I was trying to say. There is no question of anything unspent. There is nothing called unspent in such case. So एक बार आपने पैसा दे दिया, मैं वहीं ला रहा था सर कानूनी तौर पर आपको, आप खुद ही आ गए कि जब आपने डोनेशन दे दिया, there is nothing called unspent. As far as the company is concerned, you already spent the money. तो सबसे सस्ता सुंदर टिकाऊ तरीका है कि आप डोनेट, मतलब आप चिंता छोड़ दें उसकी कि हाँ भी उसने कब स्पेंड करना है, कैसे स्पेंड करना है, क्योंकि फिर रेपुटेशन देखिए, सामने वाला मिसयूज ना करे, मिसडायरेक्ट ना करे, वो आपकी एक नैतिक जिम्मेवारी है, ठीक है ना, कानूनी जिम्मेवारी नहीं है, आपकी नैतिक जिम्मेवारी है।
Now I will come to her
एक रेपुटेड
question.
संस्था से लीजिए जो अब मैं दूसरा सवाल अरुण जी से पूछना चाह रहा हूँ, ये जो जिन्हें डोनेशन जाती है, अब लॉ ने डिस्टिंग्विश किया इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एजेंसी, ठीक है ना जी, अब इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एजेंसी का क्या काम है? इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एजेंसी का काम ये कि जो आप कहें वो करना है उसने, आपने कभी कंबल खरीद के बांट दो, आपने कहा भी वहां टॉयलेट बनवा दो 10,000, ऐसा वो इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एजेंसी है। तो इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एजेंसी और कॉन्ट्रैक्टर में क्या फर्क है? वहां भी जरा मैं चाहता हूं आप डिस्टिंग्विश करें कि एक आदमी तो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर, आपने डायरेक्ट कंपनी से कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दे दिया, एक आपने ऐसी संस्था को दिया जिसका काम ही ये करने का है।
सर,
तो उसको कैसे आप लीगली करेंगे? अनस्पेंड को गाइड करिए सर।
इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एजेंसी की फर्स्ट ऑफ दैट,
We welcome Gangwal ji, our honorable minister. Sir, please come. आइए सर, please come on the dais, sir. आइए सर, आइए. Let us welcome with big round of applause Shri Santosh Gangwal ji. Sir, we call once a minister, always a minister, and you have been guiding us so much, sir. You know, we are always, obliged as a country for your kind guidance and support, sir. आइए सर. बैठिए सर, बैठिए. Gangwal Sahab actually had the difference between an implementing agency and a contractor who is supposed to actually do activity on your behalf. We'd like to hear you, sir.
see, implementing agencies have been specified and defined under the Act. The companies, Section 8 company through Section 8 company, trust, society, and very important thing is you cannot give your project for implementation to an agency which has recently been incorporated or established. At least 3 years experience on the same nature of the activity has to be there. So my answer to her question that they have given the funds to district magistrate for implementation. The funds to district magistrate for implementation. Under which law? That is what I want to understand. Local areas.
District administration, local government.
No, local government नहीं. It is written in the law.
Government word is
Government will, I will come to that. It is written in the law that preference should be given for the local area. Suppose I have a registered office in Delhi, I have a plant in somewhere in Madhya Pradesh, in interior. So I should give the preference of my CSR activities near to my plant, where my workers are working, my district magistrate under any such to police district magistrate under any such or under any law. This is what I wanted to understand before answering your question.
So we have actually the laws, the act says that whenever you are going to, who can be an implementing agency, it has specified.
Yes.
But if there is a request, when we talk about need assessment, so if there is a request, when we talk about need assessment, so if there is a request from the local PRI representatives or the local MP, MLAs or a state government bodies, local PRI representatives or the local MP, MLAs or a state government bodies. So you have to give a preference that is mentioned in the
A
act.
preference, but you should have as
So you have to give a preference that is mentioned in the
a
act.
preference, but you should have, as Madam Vani has rightly said, if you are giving such, specified period, very well, because they are the government. You can go to the High Court in writ petition and get this thing done.
So we can go.
Yes.
Proceed
Yes.
with that route.
Yes. Thank you. I think, Vinodji, I have
Sir,
clarified.
my question was a little different to you, sir. You know, after the law has mandated that the money can be given only to agencies which are duly registered with the MCA.
Yes.
And you know, I have worked with Coal India as a board member for 4 years.
Okay.
So I understand what she is talking about. Normally, you know, district magistrates of different areas and other local organizations that try and push the organization concerned. It is not covered by a scheme, the government or anything, the thing which you are saying. So in my humble view, now after that amendment, money cannot be given to those people. It has to be routed through a implementing agency, which is either a society or a company,
Correct.
Section 8 company or a trust, which is duly registered under Section 80G, read with of the company of the Income Tax Act. Otherwise, right now, after that amendment, money cannot be given to the government officials because this was actually a misuse which was happening.
That is what I was surprised of, under what rule.
नहीं वो मेरे को मालूम है ना सर कैसे हो रहा है क्योंकि मैं 4 साल उसको पूरे ऑल इंडिया लेवल पे भुगता हूं तो इसलिए मालूम है.
So answer is very clear. These societies, companies under Section 8 or trust or any scheme notified by central government, state government or any authority, you can you can appoint implementing agencies. And that agency should have at least 3 years experience in the similar kind of the activities. So this is the law.
The only exception of 3 years is when the agency is created by you yourself. If the company itself create a Section 8 company or maybe a trust which is promoted by the company who is actually giving this money.
Yes, that is correct.
Then
we are
this 3 years
talking about
requirement is
we
not
are
there.
talking about Vinod
Sir,
ji.
I'm only supplementing.
Yeah,
Sir,
sure.
आपसे differ तो कर ही रहा हूँ मैं. So Arun is a noted expert. You know, I have already acknowledged. So Arun
Vinod ji,
की
you
बात
have-
से हम कभी differ नहीं करते हैं. जो अरुण कहते हैं वो final होती है.
नहीं.
हम तो सिर्फ आपको थोड़ा सा पूछ रहे हैं minutely ले जाके ताकि सब
you
लोग
have-
समझ सकें.
You are our senior. You have more experience than me.
Sir, that experience only I'm trying to use to put the law in by dissecting the law and so that confusion doesn't remain. Now, on my left we have a senior IPS officer, and I think role of NGO is a very important area on which he wants to really give his own experience as well as his expertise and of course his guidance. How as a IPS officer he has handled some cases when NGOs are actually misusing such things.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me here. Though I'm an odd man out here completely. So what we have been talking is more or less about the regulatory framework. I'm coming out of it. And sir said that I'm going to talk about the misuse of funds. But honestly, Sir, with all apologies, I'm not talking about that. I'm going to speak about something else. जो मुझे यहाँ पे invite किया गया था when I was discussing 2 days back with some people who were sitting with us, and I was discussing about the anti-human trafficking work that I'm doing. So very recently, on last month, we started a lab that's the first anti-human trafficking lab in Asia, and that is called RACE Lab, Research, Advocacy, and Capacity Building Against Exploitation. And I mean, for years I had been trying to do something on anti-human trafficking. I'm so-called, like, international expert on anti-human trafficking. And so that's the field that I work a lot on. So I was discussing that, then they said, like, this is a good forum where you should come and share your experience. And at the same time, the challenges that you are facing while opening it. Because if you start something and with a lot of aspirations, with a lot of commitment at the same time, like, the challenge that you face while doing it. So he said, like, you should come and share that as well, because here we are talking about the legal framework. तो उससे बाहर हट के भी थोड़ा सा बात किया जाए कि ठीक है, लीगल फ्रेमवर्क तो है, बट कोई चीज अगर हम जुनून से कुछ शुरू करना चाहते हैं, तो वो जुनून को जो लेके जाए एक एंड तक, या उसका जो सफर हो, उस सफर में मदद अगर चाहिए तो हो कैसे? या तो लीगल फ्रेमवर्क की हम बात कर रहे हैं, बट हो कैसे? किसी एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ने नया है, कुछ नया स्टार्ट करना चाह रहा है, तो एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग जो कॉन्सेप्ट मिल रहा है, जो वही जो हम एक्सपीरियंस कर रहे हैं. थोड़ा सा एक बैकग्राउंड एक और दे दूं कि एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है भोपाल में, संवेदना करके, एंड दैट संवेदना स्टार्टेड वे बैक इन 2002, और फाउंडर मैं था, और एक्सीडेंटली आई लैंडेड अप इन अ विलेज, एक कम्युनिटी में बेडिया कम्युनिटी कहलाता है. एंड इफ यू नो बेडिया कम्युनिटी, दे आर इनटू इंटरजनरेशनल प्रोस्टिट्यूशन. That's a part of DNT, denotified tribes. जैसे बेड़िया, बाछड़ा, नट, कंजर, सांसी, पारदी, ये सारे denotified tribes हैं. तो मैं पोस्टिंग के दौरान वहाँ accidentally I landed up there, and I found that a 12-13-year-old girl being pushed into prostitution and prostituted by mothers. उसमें, I mean, it won't be an exaggeration if I say that 90% of the children in many of the villages are fathered by customers. They don't have father. If you ask their name, तो माँ के नाम से ही पहचाने जाते हैं. एंड जब मैं भी पहली बार गया था तो मुझे भी शौक था, और मैं दैट वाज इन 2011 वी स्टार्टेड दैट. और जो पहली बच्ची जिसको 13 साल कर रही थी कि उनको पुश किया जाए, प्रोस्टिट्यूशन में जाना चाहिए उसको, क्योंकि कमाई नहीं है हमारे पास में. एंड द लेडी हु हरसेल्फ वाज like sex worker, and at the age of 30 she had lost customers because the new entrant is 14-15-year-old girl. So every customer wants to have a young girl. So वो स्थिति में उस बच्ची को किसी तरह लाए भोपाल में, and you would be happy to know कि इस बार उसने M.Tech दिया है. And besides that, adding more to that, this time she had prepared in UPSC mains. आज वो organization, I mean, for the first time I'm coming on platform and talking that I'm the founder of that organization. 20 साल के लिए किसी को पता नहीं था कि वो organization मैंने बनाया था. मतलब बिकॉज आई ऑलवेज लैब चालू किया है, तो तब मैंने बोलना शुरू किया. तो अब वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन 60 गांव में काम कर रही है, 5600 बच्चों के साथ, बेड़िया कम्युनिटी के साथ, जिसके साथ में आप एंटर करना गांव में मुश्किल है. इट्स सच अ क्लोज कम्युनिटी. सो दिस इज व्हाट इज द बैकग्राउंड ऑफ दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. वी हैव एस्टैब्लिश्ड दिस रेस लैब, एंड रेस इज लाइक a national, and we have an international perspective where we are going to work, because I work internationally. तो अब जैसे कि फंड्स की बात हो रही थी CSR के बारे में, एक जो बहुत बड़ा हम लोग को प्रॉब्लम हो रहा था वो है कि अगर बाय चांस, दो आई वाज नॉट इन पिक्चर एंड आई नेवर यूज माय नेम और माय पोजीशन टू गेट एनी CSRs और एनीथिंग, तो जब भेजते थे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के कोई जाते थे, तो उनका सबसे पहला जवाब यही होता था जो आपने बोला कि 80% खर्चा वहीं करेंगे जो अगल बगल में है. मध्य प्रदेश में हर जिले में इंडस्ट्रीज नहीं है, और अगर इंडस्ट्रीज है तो उतना उसका वो नहीं है टर्नओवर कि उसका CSR का कोई कंपोनेंट है. तो आप जाते हैं तो स्ट्रेट अवे बोल देते हैं हम नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि हमको मैंडेट किया गया है कि हमारे अगल बगल का काम है, बस वही करना है. यू सी द कॉस्ट. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट अ community which is most marginalized. I can say that, most marginalized, really needs some work to be done there. The kids have to be pulled out and brought into education. We have been showing a success story. Still, when we talk about CSR, the question comes that we cannot support you just because it is not in that area. That is one challenge. Second, if we go to the organizations and कभी जाते हैं, मतलब क्योंकि मैं भी बोल रहा हूँ, but otherwise when the organizations go, and very similarly to Race Lab also, जब हम लोग जाके किसी से बात करते हैं तो अचानक फिर हम पत्राचार करने के बाद में आपको 1-2 महीने बाद जवाब आता है, सॉरी ये ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग हमारे मैंडेट में नहीं है। So that is one area which is very gray area and a very confusing area for us. किसके पास जाना चाहिए, कैसे आप उसको करना चाहिए, कॉज है तो अगर अच्छा कोई कॉज है, very transparent organization, very transparent work they are doing, but how do we approach for CSRs, how do we get support, how these things could be taken forward to me. वेरी वेरी गुड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, सारे अच्छे अच्छे फाउंडेशंस के पास हम लोग गए, सबके पास जिससे बात किया तो ज्यादातर लोगों का ये कहना होता है कि नहीं, एंटी ह्यूमन ट्रैफिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस वुड इजीली फाइंड आउट अ वे आउट, but I am talking about genuine organizations which are not into anything of anything of delayed dialing or hanky panky work. Straight they mean business, they just want to contribute to the society, they want to bring change in. And the best part is that if you're working in 60 villages, in all 60 villages 80% of the educators are from that community जिसमें पढ़ाई गांव-गांव में करता था. So this is the change we are trying to bring, but how do we come to कि ये पता लगे थोड़ा बहुत तो अच्छा रहेगा. और दूसरा ये जो प्रॉक्सिमिटी वाला जो है उसका तोड़ क्या है वो भी जरा बता दीजिएगा. थैंक यू.
देखिए एक मिनट, बिफोर यू रिस्पॉन्ड, आई थिंक इट इज एज ए चेयरमैन ऑफ द ग्रुप, इट्स माय ड्यूटी टू रिस्पॉन्ड टू हिम. सर, एज फार एज यू सेड एंटी ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग, आपको उसमें यू नीड नॉट रियली सीक मनी फॉर दैट. अल्टीमेटली व्हाट यू आर डूइंग इज यू आर डूइंग रिलीफ टू द पुअर or you are doing education. I think both are covered. That way Schedule 7 is very, very wide. Yes, sir. And the activity which you are trying to do can definitely be covered in many clauses. It depends how do you really put it. Ultimately, देखिए जब हमने मुस्लिम समाज के उत्थान का कार्यक्रम शुरू किया, जब ये तय किया कि मुस्लिम समाज के उत्थान के बिना कोई देश में तरक्की नहीं हो सकती, जब ऐसा हमें बताया गया कि इस पर काम करना जरूरी है, तो मुस्लिम समाज के उत्थान के लिए क्या करेंगे, आप उनको एजुकेट करेंगे, ठीक है ना, और कुछ रिलीफ एजुकेशन में आएगा और बहुत सारी चीजें जिसमें आएगा सर, ठीक है ना. सेकेंडली आई वाज ऑन द कोल issue of what is proximity, what is this local area. As a typical lawyer inside me, 1979 qualified lawyer, I feel the way the wordings are there, local area does not mean that अगर मेरी फैक्ट्री यहाँ पर है तो 20 किलोमीटर 10 किलोमीटर is local area. Whatever you spent in India, India is all local. That is my view. India is all local, and outside India is all not local. Because, for example, like Coal India, I said, we have factories, we have mines all across India, and then we have people who are utilizing our mine coal across India, and that ultimately is going to everybody. When in Rajghat powerhouse, this coal is pollution comes to the city of Delhi also. Can you really say only the area which is mined is local area? So I think it is a question of how do you really provide it. You actually need somebody like Mr. Saxena to guide you. I think it should be possible, sir. I think we'll not have spent more time on this. Can I request her to actually आरती जी को मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि अपने कुछ संक्षेप में कहें, क्योंकि हमारे पास इतने लर्नेड साथी अब जुड़ गए हैं कि हमें उनको सुनना जरूरी है. संतोष जी को चलिए आप कहिए अपनी बात के, सर सुनने आए कह रहे हैं.
Good evening. I'm a psychologist and I've been working in the social entrepreneurial sector, healthcare sector, and also in the mental health space for 10 years now. And my entire aim of being here today is like the question that has just come up: who is approaching whom, and what are we doing specifically for the nascent NGOs? There are clauses and there are laws that don't allow younger NGOs to reach out to bigger CSR. There are funds. India is not less in money. We are growing at a pace that is alarming for an individual who saw not even phones when I was younger. So, to all of you today is that how are we as a community responding to this NGO versus CSR debate? Are we that I came across? First of all, every individual working in a company makes the community, makes a CSR project possible, because the employees can use to gain benefit, not only the monetarily benefit, but also manpower, resource, and skills. We've been talking about skill development for 15, 20 years in our country, if the NGOs and the CSR align together and there's a synergy between skill allocation and skill delivery, we can create NGOs that are reaching the funds. यहाँ पे हम surplus fund की बात कर रहे हैं 2 घंटे से, but what about capacity building and capability that the NGOs can reach to those funds? So today I would like to ask as a psychologist and request all of you who are stakeholders at different companies that please enable younger NGOs like mine that works in a specific area, which is providing reconstructive surgery to burn survivors across the spectrum. So how can we in niche areas, NGO that's working for human trafficking, how can we rebrand ourselves? How can we be more social media and technology savvy? In this entire day today, we didn't have anything talking about CSR, and NGOs are dealing with the social media legalities and that side of the story. So that's something we can take up in the next thing. So my question is, how is the community building capacities and abilities in CSR projects and NGOs that are connecting to the people? Because at the end of the day, people make up the society, and we all are here to build a better future for ourselves and also for the coming generation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think very well covered. I have one more speaker of the day, Mr. Ravi Sethi, founder, professor. Ravi ji, will you like to really share your? Don't hesitate in.
No hesitation,
You are
sir.
the last speaker, but
I am the last one.
most important. Last but most important.
Oh, yes, yeah. I have prepared a presentation and more time to deliberate it, and Mr. Santosh ji is between us, and I will not like to keep him waiting more. And this is my home ground. I am here. I am here always, and I'll speak some other time. Thank you, Dindya sir. You have given me this opportunity. But I think I have to wait more. I have been here since the morning. I have listened to all the speakers. Lot of technical discussions has been done. So I think now is the time to hear from Mr. Santosh. Over to you, sir. I'll speak some other time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
विनोद जैन जी, मैं जब भी कोई दिक्कत होती है तो मैं विनोद भाई साहब को फोन करता हूँ कि भाई साहब ऐसे ऐसे एक सेशन है, इसको आप चेयर कर लेना, और उससे क्या होगा कि मुझे भी मिलता है। विनोद जैन जी में खासियत है भाई साहब में कि वो कोई भी किसी भी चीज टॉपिक पे अच्छा मैनेज कर लेते हैं और किस तरह उनको डील करना है वो जानते हैं। मैं बहुत बहुत आपका आभार करता हूँ जैन साहब। और हमारे बीच में अरुण सक्सेना जी हैं, आरती मैडम है, रवि सेठी जी हैं, और वीरेंद्र जी। सर कल ही बात हुई थी आपसे, परसों हुई थी? कल ही बात हुई थी। तो मैंने रिक्वेस्ट किया था आपसे कि सर आप आए तो अच्छा लगेगा। आप मध्य प्रदेश से आए हैं, IPS हैं और ह्यूमन ट्रैफिक में काम करने में बताया जैसे आपको, तो मैं उनका भी बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। और अब हमारे मध्य में जो आज के चीफ गेस्ट हैं, माननीय अपने लेबर एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट में, इससे पहले सर पेट्रोलियम नेचुरल गैस में भी सर रहे हैं कई सालों से। मतलब मैं देख रहा हूँ कि हो सकता है कि ही इज वन ऑफ द ओल्डेस्ट मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट इन द दिस लोकसभा। तो संतोष गंगवार जी हैं, सभी लोग जानते हैं, फाइनेंस में भी रहे हैं आप। तो मैं बिना कुछ कहे सर से कहूंगा कि आप अपना उद्बोधन करें, हमें आशीर्वाद बच्चे दें। बैठ के खड़े
हम यहाँ पर सुनने के लिए आए थे, तो पहले तो हम माफी चाहेंगे, हमको आना था सुबह के सत्र में, पर जैसा कि आप सब जानते हैं दिल्ली प्रदेश में नगर निगम के चुनाव हो रहे हैं, मुझको सुबह ही इस चुनाव के संदर्भ में जाना पड़ गया, इसलिए मैं सुबह ना आकर आखिरी सत्र में यहाँ पर आपके बीच में हूँ। पर यहाँ पर जो चर्चा हो रही है वास्तव में इसकी आवश्यकता है। अब मेरी बात अगर कोई आपको खराब भी लगे तो आप नाराज मत होइएगा। मतलब ये सब हमारे मंच पर सारे प्रमुख साथी बैठे हैं। श्री दीनदयाल जी अभी कुछ बात कर रहे थे, यहाँ पर श्री वेद प्रकाश महावर जी, श्री अरुण सक्सेना जी, आरती आहूजा जी, विनोद जैन जी, वीरेंद्र कुमार मिश्र जी और आप सभी मित्रों, वास्तव में ये एक ऐसा क्षेत्र है, इसके बारे में हम जब बात करते हैं हमें ध्यान है कि हम समाज के उस हिस्से के हैं, धर्म चाहे कोई भी हो, सब इन कामों की चिंता भी करते हैं और इस काम के ऊपर लोगों की सेवा भी करते हैं और पैसा भी खर्च करते हैं, चाहे हिंदू हो, चाहे मुस्लिम हो, चाहे पारसी हो, चाहे सिख हो। सब सिख लोग तो अपने आय का एक हिस्सा इन सामाजिक कामों में खर्च करने की दिशा में लगाते हैं और खर्च करते हैं, इसलिए कोई ज़्यादा इसका संदर्भ नहीं है। और मेरा एक व्यक्तिगत अनुभव है, हमारे शहर के एक सज्जन बीमार हो गए, उनकी परिवार में उनकी पत्नी को कैंसर हो गया, वो मुंबई ले गए इलाज कराने। जब मुंबई ले गए, लौट कर आए, बोले साहब कमाल है। मैंने क्या हुआ? बोले वहाँ पर लोग घूमते फिरते हैं ये तलाश करने के लिए जो मरीज है उसकी ज़रूरत क्या है। उन्होंने फिर एक उदाहरण बताया कि हमारे शहर के एक सज्जन को वहाँ पर 10 यूनिट्स खून की ज़रूरत थी। अब जो उत्तर भारत से जाए उसे महाराष्ट्र में खून कौन देगा? पर वो बोले कि साहब उन्हें ब्लड भी मिला और ब्लड देने वाला कौन था ये उसने बताया भी नहीं और कोई पैसा भी खर्च नहीं करना पड़ा। बोले वहाँ पर कुछ लोग इस काम के लिए घूमते हैं कि किसकी क्या आवश्यकता है। मैं दिल्ली में सामान्यतः रहता हूँ और दिल्ली में मैं महसूस करता हूँ, अगर किसी मरीज को कोई ज़रूरत होती है तो लोग अगर तलाश करें तो ऐसे मिल जाते हैं कि क्योंकि मैं भेजता रहता हूँ, तो मेडिसिन स्टोर के दुकानदार ने भी कहा कि भाई तुम्हारी मदद हो जाएगी, फलाने के पास जाओ। ये मेरा कहना है कि हमारे समाज में लोगों की सोच का विषय है कि हम लोगों की सेवा करें और सेवा के साथ जुड़े। पर ये जिस विषय पर हम लोग यहाँ पर चर्चा कर रहे हैं, CSR की बात हम लंबे समय से करते आ रहे हैं, पर CSR की चर्चा और इसका एक रिस्पांस आम आदमी की ओर से हमको मिले। देश की आबादी 125 करोड़ से अधिक और उसके अंदर गरीबी रेखा के नीचे कितने हैं ये एक विषय है, और ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में रहने वालों की संख्या कितनी है। हमारे यहाँ पर 6 लाख से अधिक गांव हैं और इन गांव में जो बच्चे रहते हैं उनके लिए सुविधाएं मिले। मैंने महसूस किया है, मैं लंबे समय से लोकसभा में हूँ और क्षेत्र में जहाँ भी जाता हूँ ये महसूस करता हूँ कि आर्थिक कमी की वजह से लोग कितना मिस करते हैं, ये महसूस किया जा सकता है। अब सब जगह सब कैसे पहुंचा पाए मदद? हमारी सरकार चिंता करती है, सारे काम करती है, सारे देश में प्रक्रिया में लगी रहती है, पर हम कितना रिजल्ट पहुंचा पाते हैं ये अलग विषय है। और अब भी हर गांव का व्यक्ति ये चाहता है कि उनका बच्चा अगर अच्छे स्कूल में पढ़े। हम उत्तर प्रदेश के निवासी हैं, हम इतना महसूस करते हैं कि हमारे प्रदेश का मुख्यमंत्री इस दिशा में कोशिश कर रहा है कि स्कूल हमारे प्रदेश में अच्छे बने और ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों के बच्चे उन स्कूलों में पढ़ें। पर हमें तकलीफ होती है, ये ग्रामीण बच्चे जो है, हम सवाल करते हैं कि भाई कितने गांव के प्रतिष्ठित लोग हैं वो उस गांव के स्कूल में बच्चों को पढ़ाते हैं? कोई नहीं पढ़ाता है। तब शहर में लेकर आते हैं और शहर में पैसा खर्च करके अपने बच्चों को पढ़ाते हैं। ये अंतर हो रहा है और बच्चे का विकास हो आज देश की ये आवश्यकता है और इसके हिसाब से हमको मिलकर काम करना चाहिए। और जहां तक हमें मानते हैं कि लंबे समय के बाद जब कोरोना का काल आया तब लोगों को समझ में आया कि CSR फंड ने काम किया और काम दिखाई भी दिया। मेरा व्यक्तिगत अनुभव हो सकता है, आप मेरी बात को, पर मेरा ये मानना है कि CSR फंड जो काम कर रहा है उसकी एक अपनी लिमिट है आपके काम करने की। भाई इस यूनिट का क्या प्रॉफिट है। मैं इस समय लोकसभा में उस कमेटी में हूँ, जो कमेटी का चेयरमैन हूँ, जो इस काम को देखता है। और उस कमेटी के अंदर जब हम इस बात को करते हैं तो लोगों से बात करते हैं इसकी, तो कि आप पैसा कैसे खर्च करते हो और कहाँ करते हो। हमारे जितने साथी संसद सदस्य वो ये सवाल करते हैं। हम पब्लिक अंडरटेकिंग कमेटी के चेयरमैन हैं और हम सारे साथी यही बात करते हैं, पैसा आप कहाँ खर्च करते हो और कैसे खर्च करते हो। ये सवाल है, मैं इसकी ज्यादा व्याख्या में नहीं जाना चाहूंगा। एक बार हमने महसूस करा, चाहे कोई भी इसका बारे में प्रयास किया, पर अब 2 वर्षों में कोरोना में जैसे हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री ने काम किया, वो पूरी दुनिया में इसकी पहचान है। और पहली बार CSR फंड किस ढंग से खर्च किया जाए, ये दिखाई दिया और लोगों ने महसूस भी किया कि इस ढंग से काम हो रहा है। तो हम ये कहते हैं कि हम जो काम कर रहे हैं वो लोगों को समझ में भी आए, हम लोगों की मदद करें, लोगों की सेवा करें, लोगों को अपने देश में हमें सोचना पड़ेगा हम कैसे काम कर रहे हैं और क्या काम कर रहे हैं। तो मैं यहाँ पर आप लोगों ने हमको बुलाया, ये मुझे भी अच्छा लगा कि वास्तव में ये CSR फंड ऐसा है कि इसका नाम कुछ बदलिए, CSR के नाम के अलावा ऐसा नाम लिखिए जो आम लोगों के बीच में पहुंचे। और ये सही है, हिंदुस्तान पूरा हिंदुस्तान है, एक क्षेत्र विशेष नहीं है। जैसे हमारे क्षेत्र में, हम बरेली में के रहने वाले हैं, उत्तर प्रदेश में इक्को फैक्ट्री का एक यूनिट है। अब जब भी कहो तो वो कहते हैं साहब हम आपके जिले में जो कहो करते हैं बाहर, और तो हमने कहा खाद तो पूरे देश के अंदर सब लोग इस्तेमाल करते हैं। तो हमारा सोच ये होना चाहिए कि हम कहाँ क्या जरूरत है और कैसे उस काम को हम सहयोग करें और आगे बढ़ाने की दिशा में काम करें। तो मैं यहाँ पर सुनने के लिए आया। हमारे देश में इतनी सारी आवश्यकता है, हम इसकी कल्पना नहीं कर सकते। जब जितना आप निचले क्षेत्र में जाओगे, जितना आप ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में जाओगे, तब आपको समझ में आएगा कि कमी अभी कितनी है और आजादी के 70 साल के बाद भी अभी हमें कितना काम करना बाकी है। हम जब देहात में जाते हैं तो हमें लगता है कि भाई यहाँ पर अभी बहुत काम बाकी है। और अब दिक्कत क्या हो रही है, हमारे गांव का शहरीकरण हो रहा है। ये बात सही है कि हमारी सरकार वर्तमान की अच्छे ढंग से काम कर रही है। हम जिस प्रदेश के निवासी हैं, संपर्क मार्ग और सड़कों के जाल बन रहे हैं। अब जो गांव शहर से जुड़ गया उसने एकदम तरक्की करना शुरू कर दिया, वहां पर आय के साधन भी बढ़ गए और काम करने का तरीका भी बदल गया। पर हमारा आग्रह है कि CSR फंड के माध्यम से हम लोगों की जिम्मेदारी और भी बनती है कि हम कैसे जिस क्षेत्र में हैं और जो हमारे कंसर्न का क्षेत्र है वहां पर लोगों की सुख सुविधा को हम ध्यान करें, उनकी सहायता करने का काम करें, वो क्या जिससे कि वो लाभ उठा सके। और एक काम से अलग हटकर कि हमारा काम नौकरी देना नहीं है, जो हमारी सरकार कहती है हमारा काम ऐसा है कि वो नौकरी देने वाला बने। और आज हमारे देश के अंदर नौकरी देने वाले बनने की दिशा में होड़ लग रही है, उसके हिसाब से हम लोग मिलकर काम भी कर रहे हैं। और आज जरूरत इस बात की है, 125-30 करोड़ के मुल्क में आप सबको नौकरी नहीं दे सकते, और जो चाहता है मुझे नौकरी मिले उस हिसाब से मिल भी नहीं सकते। यहाँ पर स्पर्धा इतनी बड़ी है कि हम सब इस बात को महसूस कर सकते हैं कि इस संघर्ष में फिर फ्रस्ट्रेशन हो जाता है बच्चों में। हम इस ढंग से उसको आगे बढ़ाने का काम करें। और आप सब भी लोग मौजूद हैं यहाँ पर, जो इस दिशा में आप जो भी दिशा देंगे, बच्चा वो सुनने और समझने को तैयार होगा और उसे लगेगा कि हम जो भी काम करेंगे उसकी पहचान बनेगी। आज हमारे देश के अंदर जरूरत यह है कि कोई काम छोटा बड़ा नहीं है, हम इसको मानने की दिशा में काम करें। और अगर हमने ये कह दिया कि सरकारी नौकरी कर लो, सरकारी नौकर बन जाओ, वही सबसे बड़ा काम है, तो शायद हम देश के हित में एक सही कदम नहीं उठा रहे। तो मित्रों, आप सब लोग यहाँ पर एकत्रित आए, मेरा आपसे आग्रह है CSR की पहचान देशवासी को भी और हर एक को लगे कि वास्तव में ये जो काम कर रहा है CSR मिल भी रहा है। और वास्तव में शिक्षा और चिकित्सा दो ऐसे क्षेत्र हैं इसमें आप जितना भी काम करेंगे वो कम नजर आएगा आपको। हमें महसूस करते हैं कि चिकित्सा की इतनी ज्यादा आवश्यकता है। अभी भी आजादी के इतने वर्षों के बाद हमें लगता है कि इसमें अभी बहुत ज्यादा होना बाकी है। और शिक्षा के बारे में तो हम यहाँ सबके सामने टिप्पणी नहीं करना चाहेंगे, पर शिक्षा के मामले में हम अभी भी उस अंग्रेजी सभ्यता को भूल नहीं पाए। कोशिश कर रही है हमारी सरकार, हम उसको अलग करें। अंग्रेजों ने जो शिक्षा हमको पढ़ाई, जो हमको जानकारी दी आजादी के बाद से, उससे अगर अलग हम नहीं हुए तो हम देश के साथ न्याय नहीं करेंगे। हमारा इतिहास क्या है मैं इस व्याख्या में जाना नहीं चाहूंगा, पर मेरा मानना है कि हमारा वास्तविक इतिहास भी लोगों ने छीन लिया हमसे। और शिक्षा का मतलब नौकरी नहीं है, ये अगर हम मानकर चलेंगे और इस काम में आप लोग सहयोगी हो सकते हैं, उसका IQ बढ़े ये समझ में आता है, पढ़ लिख कर वो विद्वान बने ये समझ में आता है, पर नौकरी के लिए पढ़े लिखे ये समझ में नहीं आता है। तो मेरा आपसे आग्रह है कि इस दिशा में काम करिए और जहां भी आप सहयोग करें उस निचले व्यक्ति, क्योंकि हम जिस पार्टी से जुड़े हैं उस पार्टी के अंदर एक हमारे अच्छे विचारक थे, वरिष्ठ विचारक थे, पंडित दीनदयाल उपाध्याय जी। उनका मानना था कि अगर आप समाज को आगे बढ़ाना चाहते हैं तो समाज के अंतिम व्यक्ति की चिंता करें कि हम उसके हित में कितना काम कर रहे हैं और क्या काम कर रहे हैं। और अगर हम इस चिंता को नहीं आगे बढ़ा पाए कि समाज के लास्ट पायदान पर खड़ा व्यक्ति समझ सके, तो फिर हम जो कुछ भी कर रहे हैं वो सब बेकार है। बड़े आदमी तो सब कुछ कर सकते हैं और कर लेते हैं, पर जिसको दिशा देनी है अगर हम उसके लिए नहीं करते हैं, और समझ में आना चाहिए। और एक और बात है, मेरी बात को अन्यथा में मत लीजिएगा, उसके साथ उसके स्वरूप में ही रहना पड़ेगा आपको। अगर आप उसके हिसाब से बात नहीं करोगे तो वो समझेगा पता नहीं कौन बाहर से आ गया। तो मेरा, आप साथी ने यहाँ पर बुलाया, बातचीत अच्छी हो रही है और वास्तव में CSR फंड के द्वारा जो कंपनियां इस काम में सहयोग कर सकती हैं वो ऐसे सहयोग करें कि आदमी को लगे कि हमारा स्कूल बना है, हमारा अस्पताल बना है, हमारे लिए अन्य सुविधा मिली है, ये इसके पीछे कौन है, ये समझ में अगर आ जाएगा तो लोग आपसे मांगने भी आ जाएंगे, आपसे कहने भी आ जाएंगे। बस खाली खर्च करने का विषय नहीं होना चाहिए, खर्च ऐसा हो कि जो लोगों की समझ में आए कि वास्तव में ये यूनिट जो काम कर रहा है वो खाली कमाने के लिए काम नहीं कर रहा है, समाज को बनाने के लिए। देश मित्रों, मुझे कोई ज्यादा नहीं कहना है, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और मेरा आग्रह है कि इस प्रकार की चर्चा आप लोग करते रहे। सोचिए कि समाज के उस आखिर व्यक्ति की अपने देश में हम कैसी सेवा कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि अभी भी आप समझ लें हमारे देश के लोगों में क्रेज है कि हम विदेश में जाएं, वहां पढ़कर आए, सारे काम करें। लगता यह है कि हमारे देश में कुछ नहीं होता है, पर सब कुछ अपने देश में होता है। हमको ये मानना चाहिए और उसके हिसाब से हमको काम करना चाहिए। तो आपने मुझे यहाँ पर बुलाया, कुछ मुझे सुनने का मौका मिला। मैं फिर कभी दोबारा आपके बीच में आऊँगा तो निश्चित रूप से इसको कैसे हम लोग आगे बढ़ा सकें, हम लोग ये मिलजुल कर काम करें। आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
थैंक यू गंगवार साहब, आपने बहुत अच्छी बात कही कि CSR का भी नाम चेंज करना चाहिए और इसको जिसे आम आदमी तक पहुंचाना है तो उसकी उसकी भाषा में ही रखना चाहिए। सर वैसे मैं बता दूं आपको, मुझे ज़्यादा डाटा मेरे पास नहीं है, लेकिन जितना CSR फंड होता है, कितने हॉस्पिटल चल रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है वो CSR फंड नहीं, लोग वॉलंटियर डोनेशन भी देते हैं। आपने अच्छा किया, उनकी भाषा में ही हमें काम करना चाहिए। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका। और मैं चाहूँगा रवि जी थोड़ा आगे के चल। हाँ प्लीज।
माइक दे दीजिए प्लीज।
जय हिंद सर। सर कोरोना के जब से फर्स्ट लॉकडाउन हुआ है, आई एम इन क्रिमेशन ग्राउंड इंस्टॉलिंग इलेक्ट्रिकल गैस क्रिमेटोरियम्स। आई एम ए फर्स्ट crematorium technology expert of India during this time and implemented 30 projects. उस समय के दौरान मुझे बरेली के अंदर काम करने का मौका मिला, तो आपके वहाँ पे सिटी शमशान घाट में आपके बोर्ड लगे हुए थे। जो आप कोरोना की त्रासदी आने से पहले आपने अपने सांसद फंड से और दूसरे दानकर्ताओं के द्वारा वहाँ पे गैस और इलेक्ट्रिकल का करवाई थी, जिसका कोरोना की दूसरी वेव के टाइम लोगों को काफी सहयोग मिला। और जो आपने मंत्र दिया था कि 1 रुपए में मैं संस्कार कराऊंगा बिजली के द्वारा, और वो आपके आशीर्वाद से सफल हुआ। और कोरोना के टाइम जो लंबी लंबी लाइनें बाकी शहरों में लगी थी वो बरेली शहर में नहीं लगी। दैट इज योर जनरसिटी एंड ब्लेसिंग्स टू द पीपल ऑफ द बरेली इन यूपी सर। जय हिंद।
धन्यवाद आपका। ये तो बात आपकी ठीक है, पर सुझाव ये दीजिए कि किस ढंग से काम हो और लोग CSR को पहचाने कि वास्तव में CSR से ये काम भी हो सकते हैं और इसका आम आदमी को ये लाभ हो सकता है। आज जरूरत ये है कि CSR पैसा ज्यादा खर्च कर रहा है और उसका फिर पैसे को समझ में आना चाहिए लोगों को कि भाई इस धन का लाभ आम आदमी को कैसे मिल रहा है।
थैंक यू संतोष। विनोद सर प्लीज।
I think I have concluded the session already.
Okay,
Sir को
thank-
दे दिया hand over कर दिया उसके बाद मेरे को
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vinod sir, for such a wonderfully
मेरे ख्याल
present.
से अभी बस 5-7 मिनट रह गया है। मैं मनीषा साहब से कहूंगा कि जो हमारे अतिथि हैं, जो उन्होंने अभी हमें उद्बोधन किया है, जो हमारे स्पीकर्स हैं और कुछ हमारे वीआईपी भी आए हैं, उनको एक मोमेंटो देकर स्वागत करेंगे। सर से प्लीज, प्रणाम सर का स्वागत है।
Thank you, Mukesh. First, I would like to request Santosh sir to present our token, our love memento to Sri Vinod Jain sir, who had presided this session. Guys, this is the last time I am asking you, please maintain energy for another 5 minutes. A good round of applause for sir. And this time, everyone have to come to the stage one by one. So this is for you, guys. आरती सक्सेना जी का, अरुण सक्सेना जी का दो ना पहले। नाम सुन लो पहले, जो मैं बोला पहले नाम सुन लो। Guys, clapping please. I think these guys deserve a round of applause from us, our sides. Now I would like to audience, Shri Lakshman T. Tapshi. Please excuse with the pronunciation because I'm very new to the names. नेक्स्ट कौन सा लिस्ट तुम्हारे पास थी ना पहले, लिस्ट थी ना पहले। डॉक्टर अर्चना मजूमदार, डॉक्टर अर्चना मजूमदार, इज शी हियर? Oh, मिस उषा संजीव नायर जी, गाइस तालियां बजती रहें। You will not feel good when your name will come. Miss Usha Nair ji, Shri Aseem Mishra ji, श्री भीमराव भोसले जी, श्री घनश्याम सिंह जी, वेलकम सर। श्री मुनि कृष्णा जी, श्री मुनि कृष्णा जी, मिस रुचि गुप्ता, श्री संजय मेहता जी, श्री संजय मेहता जी, श्री मोहम्मद फराज खान, मिस्टर मोहम्मद फराज खान, मिस रजनी कपूर, मिस रजनी कपूर, श्री नीरज बाजपेयी जी, गाइस तालियां बजती रहें। मैडम का दे दिया, ये दे दो इनको। मालविका भटनागर, मिस मालविका भटनागर। श्री तरुण कुमार जी, श्री तरुण कुमार जी, श्री प्रदीप गोसाई जी, he is here on behalf of Tarun ji. श्री प्रदीप गोसाई जी, श्री प्रदीप गोसाई जी, प्रदीप, अच्छा प्लीज आप ये दे दीजिए। श्री अतुल सिंह तोमर जी, अतुल सिंह जी, नहीं आपका नहीं, ये आपका नहीं, बाकी दे फटाफट। मिस श्रुति पालन, मिस श्रुति पालन फ्रॉम HPCL। एनीबॉडी फ्रॉम HPCL? कोई और है HPCL से? श्री अमित कुमार, IFCL, श्री अमित कुमार जी फ्रॉम IFCL। श्री हेशिव प्राशर जी, CA विक्रांत, CA विक्रांत। श्री उमाशंकर सिंह जी, उमाशंकर सिंह जी। श्री प्रणीत सुशील जी, प्रणीत सुशील जी। Guys, please a good round of applause for yourself. You have been here being patient all the day. श्री प्रणीत सुशील, श्री अरुण गुप्ता जी, अरुण गुप्ता जी हैं अरुण गुप्ता जी। मिस मानसी भटनागर, अरुण गुप्ता जी। मिस पिंकी तिवारी, मिस पिंकी तिवारी। मानसी जी के लिए तालियां हो जाए। मानसी जी बहुत देर से सबके लिए तालियां बजा रही हैं वहां पे। पिंकी तिवारी जी, शी इज नॉट है, शी इज ओके, कम कम। पुलकित, मिस शालिनी गुप्ता, मिस शालिनी गुप्ता। पुलकित पुलकित पुलकित, थोड़ा जल्दी हो जाएगा। मिस शीतल जे गुप्ता, नवीन गुप्ता जी, नवीन गुप्ता जी हैं हमारे बीच, आइए, वेलकम सर। पुलकित, एक साथ में खड़े हो जी, सर का ही अब ये कोई बात, हाँ कोई बात नहीं, ये बस ये सब हो गया। हाँ ठीक है, आप कुछ करेंगे, कौन आ गया वापस? HPCL से वापस आ गए। नाम बता दो, नाम। अरे वापस चले गए ना, मैंने वापस ले लिया सर, बस 2 लोग आ गए, वापस आ गए लोग HPCL से। आप बॉम्बे से? अरे मैम इनका प्रिंटेड है। क्या नाम? उसमें तो नहीं खाली वाला, खाली ब्लैंक, बस वो मस्त है क्या सर? हाँ जी, हाँ जी, एक किताब दे दो, किताब। क्या नाम है मैम? अरे सर सर जिनके है ना, ये शुरू ठीक है, सर को दे रहे हैं।
सर सर सर
Raju. I would like to request everyone to please come guys to have a group photograph. Everyone please, clapping has been done. Gurveen, you can stop now. Miss Pooja Prasad from Coal India is here. So, आइए पूजा जी. Everyone please come. I'll. लोग ये नीचे आ जाएं, यहाँ पे सामने अच्छी अच्छी फोटो है. आपकी हाइट अच्छी थी बल्कि. हेमंत भाई आ जाओ. जल्दी आ जाओ. जी आप भी आ जाइए. दृष्टि आ जाओ आप सब लोग आ जाओ ग्रुप में आ जाइए. वेट 1 सेकंड. Thank you. The tea is ready. You are kindly requested to proceed for the tea. IT. Thank you.